Caught in an emotional whirlpool with my anxious partner. You don't love me, you're just stringing me along, she cried as I felt my walls go up. Every week brings a new argument, leaving me drained. Should I cuddle her through the storms or start thinking of an escape plan? Summary: I deeply care for this woman and wish for our relationship to succeed, yet we experience at least one disagreement weekly, with fewer than 25% of these disputes resolving in a healthy manner. She has generalized anxiety disorder and often requires emotional support, regularly sharing her burdens with me. I have expressed my desire to assist her, but I sometimes feel emotionally exhausted from these ongoing situations. As a result, I have repeatedly suggested that she consult a therapist or speak with her family and friends. Even when I do everything possible to soothe her, it often falls short, leading her to feel angry or hurt because I cannot offer the comfort and reassurance she seeks. When she is upset, she expects me to understand that her anger stems from feeling unloved and hopes I will embrace and console her immediately. Yet when her anger surfaces, it feels like an attack, and I tend to put up my defenses, which makes it challenging to fulfill her needs. One of our more recent challenging discussions occurred because she feels anxious about being in her early to mid-30s while wanting marriage and children. Naturally, she checks in with me every few months to gauge my thoughts on the timeline for these significant milestones. During her most recent inquiry, I conveyed my love for her and my desire to spend my life with her. I believe the one-year timeline she envisions is feasible, but we need to address our serious communication and relational issues before we seriously contemplate having children. This statement deeply hurt her. She insisted that I do not love her and that I am merely stringing her along, tears streaming down her face. I did my utmost to comfort her, and eventually I was able to help her calm down. Discussions like this often devolve into lengthy conversations lasting 30 minutes about how she feels hurt, unseen, and invalidated. I admit that at times I can be avoidant or not fully engaged. I also recognize that I am a logical thinker with a stoic demeanor. She has mentioned that she often perceives my behavior as cold and uncaring. Conversely, she can be triggered by seemingly trivial matters from my perspective. For instance, one evening she prepared dinner frozen Trader Joe's orange chicken, and I expressed my gratitude. We both agreed it wasn't as crispy as we typically enjoy, and I noted that I usually cook it for 5 more minutes than recommended. This comment upset her, leading to an extended argument. I did not validate her feelings to the extent she desired because honestly it seemed so trivial. She became angry about this and was distant with me throughout the evening, giving me a partial silent treatment. Ultimately, she went to bed without saying goodnight and closed the door, as we sleep in separate bedrooms due to my snoring. She typically goes to bed before I do. One way she prefers to feel loved is through a brief cuddle session when she climbs into bed, after which I return to relax in another room. However, after our earlier exchange, I lacked the desire to lie down with her. I explained that I felt hurt and needed space, so I was not in the mood for cuddling. She began to cry and expressed that it felt as if I were punishing her. She believes our relationship reflects a pattern in which I provide her with conditional love based on her mood showing affection when she is content but withholding it when she is upset, making her feel as though she is being punished. She further stated, "If your child had a temper tantrum and was misbehaving, you wouldn't withhold a hug and kiss goodnight, would you?" I replied that this was a completely different circumstance, as one involves a child and the other pertains to an adult. This comment sent her into an emotional spiral. Is a good partner expected to offer comfort and shower their partner with love even when they are met with negativity? She frequently conveys feelings of being unloved or cries, leading me to suspect that these reactions stem from maladaptive childhood strategies for seeking affection from parents who were emotionally unavailable. Another instance occurred when I took her out to dinner. She wore lounge clothes, and although I merely looked at her without commenting, she reacted angrily, claiming I disapproved of her outfit. I reassured her that she looked suitable for dinner and noted that I was also in casual attire, so she need not worry about her appearance. She was frustrated because I did not tell her she looked beautiful. My frustration grew because we were supposed to enjoy a pleasant dinner, yet another argument arose over a perceived slight that her anxiety picked up on, but that was not real. She was upset because I failed to say or act in exactly the manner she wanted. I have reached a point where I feel overwhelmed and nearly disengaged from the relationship. I find myself contemplating ending it, as I cannot shake the feeling that we are simply too different or incompatible. Clearly, I cannot change in a way that makes her feel secure and loved, and I struggle to cope with her emotional unpredictability and her inability to self-soothe. Regarding my partner's 34 female, she has been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder and prescribed 50 mg of Zoloft, which she is to take once each day. Her doctor also prescribed an additional pill for severe emotional disturbances, though I cannot recall its name, and it seems she has since discarded them. Approximately 1.5 months ago, she decided to have her Zoloft dosage. When she informed me of this decision, she requested that I never use it against her or attempt to persuade her to resume the medication since she wants to stop taking the pills as soon as she is able. There has undeniably been an increase in turmoil since she decided to reduce her dosage. Note that she has not consulted her doctor about this change and does not see them regularly. Although she engaged in regular individual therapy prior to our meeting, she began a new job upon our introduction, which has led to fewer therapy sessions over time. She promised to attend therapy twice a week, but has only had 4 sessions in the past 3 months. She acknowledges that she possesses an anxious attachment style. Regarding me, 37 male. I am not perfect either. While I genuinely wish to find a lifelong partner, I can be quite selective. I have participated in numerous relationships, including several lasting ones. The longest lasted 3 years. However, my previous girlfriend mentioned that, although I treated her well throughout our time together, I did not make her feel the way she desired in the relationship due to my lack of emotional vulnerability. It is noteworthy that, in that relationship, we rarely had disagreements, and when we did, we managed to resolve them in healthy ways, ensuring that both of us left each conversation feeling understood and without hurt feelings. I grew up in an environment where we seldom discussed our emotions. Despite this background, I have matured significantly and am generally comfortable sharing my feelings with most partners. That said, I find it difficult to do so with my current partner, as she interprets anything I say that isn't positive as a personal affront, leading me to increasingly suppress my feelings. She frequently critiques my words and actions or lack thereof, and I usually accept this feedback without feeling hurt or defensive. I exhibit some traits of avoidant attachment, but believe I fall somewhere in between avoidant and secure attachment. My avoidant tendencies have become more apparent recently as I feel exhausted from the frequency and intensity of the emotionally charged discussions that she demands. I have attended about a dozen individual therapy sessions since we began dating to better understand her and improve our relationship. This was my first experience with therapy, and I pursued it for our benefit. Yet, she continually criticizes me for not trying hard enough to meet her needs. Additional background information. We initially dated for 5 months. During that period, things progressed smoothly but somewhat faster than in most of my previous relationships. From the outset, I recognized her heightened sensitivity and difficulty with emotional self-regulation. About a month after the honeymoon phase ended, she ended our relationship, stating that she felt unloved. Initially, I experienced some relief and tranquility after the breakup, but then I began to miss her. She eventually reached out and we rekindled our connection. We have been back together since September and things were going well. We decided to see each other more often, leading her to bring clothing to my place and stay at my apartment 7 days a week while maintaining her own residence. While our relationship was stable for a while, some of our recurring issues resurfaced weekly. She expressed a desire to move into a larger apartment, as my one bedroom was too cramped for both of us. Consequently, we began searching for an apartment together. In retrospect, I can't help but feel that she may have subconsciously manipulated me with her tears to hasten the process before I was entirely ready. We ultimately signed a lease together that commenced in mid-January. It has been approximately 3.5 weeks since we moved in, and it feels as though conditions have worsened. This has resulted in more frequent push-pull arguments, which lead to heightened emotions and increasingly long discussions. Since then, we have been attending couples therapy, having had around 8 sessions. Almost all of these sessions concluded with her feeling hurt and acting either angrily or distantly towards me. While therapists are meant to remain neutral, I can't help but feel that the therapist consistently emphasizes her issues more than mine. The therapist has also echoed my encouragement for her to maintain more frequent visits with her personal therapist. What are your thoughts? Clearly, this relationship is unhealthy. Is there any hope for resolving these issues? I find myself perplexed by her behavior and sometimes suspect that she may have borderline personality disorder or bipolar disorder, as her mood can shift dramatically from happiness to extreme anger over minor comments. This leads to her sulking for extended periods until she ultimately returns to apologize and cry as if nothing has happened. I appreciate any advice or support. Story 2. Married for just 6 months, my husband's trust issues set off my own trauma, creating a painful cycle. I regret ever trusting you, he said during a fight. Though he apologizes, I'm left devastated, reliving childhood pain. Can this vicious cycle be broken? I am a 35-year-old female married to my husband, who is a 56-year-old male, for just under 6 months after dating for 3 years. Our relationship is predominantly wonderful and we love each other deeply. We are both cohabitating, financially stable, highly educated, and at the peak of our careers. We do not have children. However, there have been several moments in the past, as well as in the present, where he experiences emotional triggers due to past trauma stemming from his neglectful parents and emotionally abusive previous partners. He is particularly sensitive to feeling unheard or neglected, not being taken seriously or being laughed at or demeaned. Generally, during an argument, he perceives that I engage in these imagined instances of attack to intentionally hurt him, and he responds defensively. He reacts very quickly, with abrupt emotional shifts from happiness to feeling upset or hurt. His emotional defensive responses are quite harsh, and it takes him a while to regain composure and reason. Unfortunately, my partner's reactive tendencies trigger my own past issues with false accusations and emotional projections from family members, leading to feelings of intense pressure to defend myself or strive for perfection as a means of self-protection, resulting in chronic low self-esteem and helplessness in the face of a now cold and distant loved one. The pattern of our arguments resembles what I call the belt and snake trigger cycle. I say or do something that is not intended to be malicious or is done by mistake, similar to him perceiving a belt on the road in his path. He interprets this as something done intentionally to hurt him, belittle him, or bring him down. He becomes aggressive and accuses me of being neglectful, untrustworthy, manipulative, and/or hostile. Based on his past negative experiences with snakes that have bitten him, he mistakenly believes that the belt is a snake and reacts with strong defensive aggression. I spend hours or even days explaining that my behavior was not meant to cause him harm. He is often very resistant to my pleas, making it a lengthy process for him to see reason and fact. My defense consistently hinges on the fact that after 3 years, he must know by now that I am not the person he claims I am, and my excellent track record as a girlfriend and a wife, which he acknowledges is very good, should serve as proof that I have never engaged in that behavior and would never dream of not taking him seriously or whatever else he has accused me of. In my defense, I do my best to reason with him logically by emphasizing the facts surrounding the argument, but by the end, I always find myself in a torrent of tears, frustration, and pain, as defending myself is so energy-consuming and reminds me of the many years my family misunderstood and mistreated me for no other reason than treating me as a punching bag for their projections. He concedes and understands where he has misunderstood, sincerely apologizing and vowing to work on his emotional triggers. He expresses gratitude for showing him how much I care about him and for fighting so hard for our relationship. However, the damage is already done. After the argument is resolved, I am left feeling emotionally drained, deeply distressed, and triggered a mess who feels wronged for being accused at all, especially considering how hard I try to support him in becoming more open and trusting of others. I withdraw completely, twice experiencing severe panic attacks, reliving memories and sometimes vivid nightmares of past traumatic incidents where everyone tells me, "It is all your fault. You were never good enough." He tries his best to comfort me but in truth fails to reassure me that this will not happen again. To him, the matter has been resolved and we should move on. He believes this is a completely normal way to handle relationship issues. Apparently, he has had it worse with past partners, and the fact that he has been improving over the last 2 years suggests that things are indeed moving in a positive direction overall. He has no plans to leave the relationship and claims I am the love of his life. To be honest, I do not think I have the emotional capacity to normalize and continue down this painful cycle of reactivity. I have engaged in a lot of emotional shadow work to address my own personal sensitivities, having been in therapy since I was 19, which allows me to extend a great deal of empathy, patience, and understanding when he behaves like this. It is the only way I have been able to maintain a rational perspective and not join him in his emotional upheaval during a triggered episode. I wholeheartedly acknowledge and celebrate the significant strides he has made in the last 2 years. However, a recent argument has left me utterly devastated. Yet another miscommunication led him to make the worst accusation against me thus far. He regretted ever trusting me, claiming that I have been dishonest about who I truly am since the day we met. This accusation is, to me, unacceptable. I cannot fathom that even in his most irrational state, he could believe that I am truly the enemy and a grand manipulator intent on his destruction. While he now regrets saying it and affirms that I am the only one he trusts, I remain shattered. I do not think I can continue with someone who believes that a mistake or misunderstanding should open a trapdoor to hell beneath someone they love. How can I escape this vicious cycle? Thank you very much for your patience in reading this. Any comments would be greatly appreciated. In summary, my husband has normalized a painful cycle of communication that I find difficult to endure. How can I break this chain of reactivity?